Team Pizza Previews! I have a bit of dirty laundry to air out about this franchise. One of the first reviews I ever did was on the 2011 Stinkfest White Knight Chronicles 2. Yeah, long story short, I didn't like it. Not one bit. And because of that, just about every Atlas fanboy on the planet decided to simultaneously jump on me and rip me to shreds. Needless to say, that review and the unintelligible comments attached to it are now banished to the 7th circle of hell where they belong. Now don't misunderstand. I will revisit that game someday and pay you assholes back for what you did to me. But for now, I have to deal with the fact that my very next review after that was Final Fantasy XIII-2. In which, due to a combination of peer pressure and a crushed ego, I gave glowing praise to a game that A, I didn't actually like, and that B, frankly gets worse every time I revisit it. I just wanted to start this off by saying I shall not be making that mistake again. For those of you who don't know, Lightning Returns is the third and what's supposed to be the final installment in the Final Fantasy XIII saga. At this point, that actually being the case is a tentative prospect. What it offers on the surface is a storyline centered around the end of the world, and a constant timer ticking down towards this event. It also ditches the party structure of the previous games, trimming down the group to just one, that being the titular character herself. To compensate for this, she's an all-in-one battler, able to switch between several classes and roles on the fly, as well as taking advantage of different action gauges for each costume. So how does it all work in practice? Okay, to be fair, I like this a lot more than the paradigm system, and I do mean a lot. Things just move faster in general now, which is fitting considering the theme here is that time is kinda nipping at your heels. As I went through more and more battles, I started to get accustomed to how the game wanted me to play it, carefully watching my action gauges and how fast I was depleting them, so I'd know exactly when to shift and continue my attacks with a fresh bar and blade. The name of the game here is Flow, and anything that potentially interrupts that flow is less than welcome. Enemy attacks, for example, which can now be blocked with your handy-dandy square button, almost completely if you manage to guard right as they attack. Sounds good, right? Unfortunately, it only works in theory. I had to play through about 3 times to be sure, but it's not just me. No matter how well I react sometimes, some attacks still get through because Lightning is already committed to a different animation, some of which being her standard attack combos. The only class this doesn't consistently happen to is the Red Mage, but its basic attacks are so piss weak they're not even worth it. The game just does not react as quick as I can think, and in something that's very desperately trying to be an action game, that's a big problem. It's so close to being correct, but it just feels off. They like to make you think there's strategy involved with switching between roles on the fly, but like the combos, all their attacks just kinda blend together, making changing into one as opposed to another feel a lot less special than it should. You have the option of switching to either of your benched classes at any time, but because one's action gauge has already been depleted by that point, you're virtually forced into a single direction through this cycle, meaning your best strategy is, in fact, making things as uniform as possible. That way you don't trip over your own fingers and use the wrong move at an inopportune time. Using different elements is supposed to convey the existence of choice in your playstyle, but against anything but the boss, I didn't even notice a difference. I really hope the standard enemies in the full game are tougher than this, because otherwise, I imagine this getting incredibly boring. You know what would have gone a long way towards remedying this, though? The timer, which for some reason stops counting down the instant you step into battle or the menu. I can understand this happening for the pause screen, but the demo is most exciting when I'm racing down the halls with this thing ticking away in the corner. If it was constantly breathing down my neck no matter what I was doing, then I'd have a reason to finish battles faster, no matter how trivial the enemies were. This mechanic could actually make Lightning Returns a really fun game to speedrun. But if Square happens to do something stupid in the full game, like, say, putting in points where you cannot progress until a certain amount of time has passed, you can expect a fair amount of very justified rage on my end. I also feel obligated to warn you that this is one of those demos, where the opening movie is the same thing as the first cutscene, so if you do download it, save yourself the trouble and skip over it. Huh? Oh, no, not the opening movie, the first cutscene. See, watching these back-to-back, I realized something about Square Enix cinematics. They look really, really good. In fact, so good that when I saw this scene with the orchestrated music sync to every single action and the characters speaking merely through their body language, it was incredibly powerful. It showed me just what I needed to know instead of saying it outright, letting my imagination fill in the blanks, which is why I hate seeing it with the dialogue thrown in, because suddenly I can't stand to watch it. I'm tired of listening to these characters drop terribly written dialogue, all the while still being the same unlikable douchebags they always were. Lightning has to have it her way, Snow is still rebelling against every little thing she does, seemingly just for the sake of doing it this time, and oh god, is that girl dead again? Bear in mind, this is all just first impressions, but considering how close we are to release date, I don't imagine much of this changing in the final product. And yes, I will be picking up the full game. I'm almost obligated to review Lightning Returns at this point to see if literally anything good can come out of this series, if not just to make up for my lack of backbone in years past. Look forward to that video sometime in mid-February.